For the first couple episodes of our show, we have been into some pretty unique worlds. Today is perhaps the reason why I got into or I started a podcast. It's to tell stories like this one. Today we're going to have a guest on, 7-time national champion from out in Indiana, and we've got a whale of a story to tell. It's going to be full of inspiration, full of success, and that's exactly why we do this. We jump into people's worlds, we examine their success, and we get to tell people's very cool stories. My name's Griff, and this is One Call, brought to you by Service 360. We are an HVAC, plumbing, and electrical company out of Berks County, Pennsylvania. If you have a problem around your home or business, give us a call. I'm sure that we can take care of whatever you got going on. But without further ado, it's my pleasure to bring in Mr. Lucas Grounds out of Indiana. How are we doing today, Lucas?
Doing well. It's great to be on the show, and I'm happy to be part of it.
It's an honor to be sitting here with you today, man, and to get to dive into your story. 7-time national champion out of the GNCC series, is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
And a life-altering event kind of derailed that. You want to kind of take us through that? I don't want to speak for you. I want to let you tell this part of the story.
Yeah, for sure. So, definitely life-changing. That's without a doubt. It's a big incident. But when I was 15-ish, end of December, or I guess it'd be mid-December, December 10th, I had a motorcycle accident inside of a covered bridge, and pretty much it left me paralyzed from the waist down. So, obviously that's a big change in my life, going from GNTC every weekend, I'm national tier A rider, like, there's a solid chance for me to make it up to XC1, XC2 to the pro ranks with the big dogs. And, that kind of got ripped away from me in a way. But that being said, I've been able to live a great life and, tell an awesome story. And it's only been coming up on 6 years since my accident. So, like I said, it's definitely life-changing, but I'm still living to the best of my ability, you know what I mean? And I've been able to do some pretty cool stuff along the way.
Yeah, that's super evident, man. And like I said before, it's an honor to have you here. Let's start at the very beginning. Like, from an early age, what drew you to the sport of off-road motocross?
Yeah, so my parents raced quads, GNCC. I mean, we're generational GNCC family, so we've been around the sport. But basically, my mom and dad, whenever they had me, they're like, we're never putting our kid on a quad. Quads are too dangerous, number one. Number two, they're too expensive. And my parents had me when they were pretty young. They got married at 22 and 21 and 22 or 22 and 23. Either way, they were super young. So they're figuring life out, and they have a kid on the way. So dirt bikes, even still, is still a big ask. But I started off when I was 3. I got a PW50 for my birthday, and we went into motocross, and we did that for a few years, and then, honestly, when I was about 6 years old, Steven Squire started training, like backyard training, so I went and did that, and, I fell in love with, he had this half motocross, and then the other half was woods. Well, I loved it. It was awesome. So, I got talking to Steven, and he's like, yeah, I race woods. He came from a motocross background, but he's like, yeah, I race woods now. And I'm like, man, like, you got to get me out to one of these races and, like, at least try it. You know what I mean? And so we go to a local, an MAXC at the time, which is, like, at the time, it was a big deal for a local. It was a pretty big series. It had an AMA sanction. They were AMA sanctioned, so it's a pretty big deal. I go out there, I don't remember if I won or if I did really good was the main goal or the main thing to take away from it. And I kind of took that. I, I fell in love with it right then and there, and we started chasing bigger and bigger races, and then it kind of all fell right into place. Is I was on a 50, and the first year GNCC ever even did a 50 race, it was like my year. So I went to that GNCC, I won the race, and I was like, man, this is awesome, you know what I mean? And from there, it kind of just took off and spiraled into a bunch of heavily contested battles with like some top name guys now, but at the time it was just a couple of kids, we're all best buddies off the track and we're just out there giving it our all, and it was a great time, you know what I mean? GTCs became family in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to dive into that section there. Like, when you found out that this was something that you enjoyed, was one thing. And then when you found out that this was something that you could really excel at is another thing. Like, what did that look like? And talk about like your drive and your motivation and practicing and honing your craft in that moment.
So I'm very mentality driven. Like everything I do is very mental. And I feel like everything in life is very mental. So from an early age, I would go to work with my dad, which this is cliche, but I'd go to work with my dad, and I'm around hard-headed people all the time at work. That's just what you get in a, I guess, hands-on field, you know what I mean, an outdoor field of work. And it raised me to be tough, and it also raised me to just strive to be better. My dad, his whole goal, his whole time he's ever had this business, is to grow, grow, grow. Well, I took that mentality and mindset from him, and all I wanted to do was win, win, win. What's it take to win? You know what I mean? I got to find my way to win. So, in turn, like I said, I started training with Steven. I didn't really know that I could really do something with this sport until I was on my 65. Grant Davis, which he's at the top of the sport now. Cooper Jones, he's a top of the sport rider. Toby Cleveland, those are all kids in my class. So I grew up around them, and honestly, not to sound like I'm just bad to the bone, but a lot of the time I would beat them. Me and Grant would have knockdown dragouts every weekend. Like one year I'd win the title, next year he'd win the title. So our whole life it was who can be better than who. So once it started getting serious, once we got on 85s, then it's like, okay, I really want to win now. So then you start going into the tank and you start doing, what can I do better? Where can I be better? Where am I lacking? And you take all that and you build something out of it. You build a program that works for you. And like I said, me and Steven, we're almost like brothers. And honestly, now we talk business with each other because we're in the same field. But I won't get into that. I'm sure we will here in a little bit. But
yeah,
we started just building something, and by the time I was 13, I was 6'2" and 165 pounds. Well, obviously I outgrew the bike that I'm supposed to be on, so I move up to a bigger class. And at the time, we're like, we don't know if this is the right move because this isn't the path that everybody takes. This is a different path.
Is that when, were you still with Grant and Cooper and Toby?
So I raced all of them. The last year I raced them, I was like 12. I move up to the big bike when I'm 13. Cooper moves up a year after. Toby then moves up that same year with Cooper, and we're all in 200B battling. And we had a great year of battles. Like there is not many people that can say that what we did in B class that other people can really say that they've accomplished. But I ended up winning the title that year, and then that was kind of the last that anybody ever seen of me on a dirt bike. I raced 2 A races. I got second at one of them, and then the next race, my rear shock blew out first lap, and I got a concussion. So kind of a bad way to end my career, but in a way, it was a really solid way to end my career because I was crowned a national champion.
Yeah, you went out on top. And you were riding for Landers at the time, right, Magna?
At the time, it was the Land Mills Magna 1 clean team. So it was before the Magna 1 oil and all that, but it was still Chris's team.
Yeah. So in that moment, I mean, or in that time period, where you were, I mean, how intensive was your training, your preparation? Were you worried about what you were eating at that time? I mean, were you that serious? Like,
so,
it's your life.
So the last, I'd say year and a half, we'll call it that. I went to, it's called the Moto Speed Factory now, but at the time it was SSR, which is Steven was still training there and everything. And I was living there with my best friend Trevor, which he races pro motocross and supercross. He's made pretty much every night show that he's ever signed up for. But long story short, I was living with him, and I'm eating better. I'm not on a meal plan at this point. I'm still
Yeah.
a young kid, just finding my way. But every day we're going to the gym. Every morning we're warming up. Every day I'm on the bike 4 days a week. And then I go to a race, and I race that weekend, and then we reset the whole thing. So at the time, it was almost a job. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm there. What we would do that year is I was there for a week, and then I'd come home and work for a week because I really enjoy my dad's business. Like, we do lawn care and landscape. Hardscape is what I like, putting in retaining walls and stuff like that. So I honestly enjoyed going to work for a week. It was just kind of a break away from the dirt bike. I'd get a reset, and I'm still moving. I'm still being active, but I'd still be in the gym that week as well.
So, but long story short, like a big part of who you are in this time period in your life is, I mean, you're eating, sleeping, dreaming about racing,
100%.
GNCC.
100%.
And like you said, going to work was a break,
Yeah,
from
exactly.
from the real work. Yeah, the work that you were focused on. And you were experiencing success. You were at the top of your level of competition, competing with guys that are the guys. If they're not the guys right now, they're right there.
100%.
Yeah, so your mindset, you're right where you need to be. You're competing near the top, and that brings us to December 10th, 2020.
So
Take me through, like, I want to know, like, from the moment you woke up that morning, and you were on a ride. You were with DQ, right?
yes, I was with DQ. I had been living there for about a month, solely just because, honestly, I went up there. I should say this too. I had signed a pretty decent Husqvarna support contract for A-Class. Like, not free bikes or anything crazy, but it was support. You know what I mean? They knew my name, and I had a contract signed. So I honestly went up there because I wanted to see my bikes and stuff. Well, long story short, it was like 3 weeks after I got up there that my bikes had come in. Honestly, my bikes came in like 2 days after I got hurt.
Oh my goodness.
But I was up there just hanging out. Me and DQ are good buddies, and he liked to road bike and just do stuff like that. But I was honestly just bored because it's wintertime and I was waiting to go to Florida. So I went up there to hang out with him for a little bit, and December 10th, it was a beautiful day. Like, 50-degree December day, and in Indiana, that is
It's rare.
extremely uncommon.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, he's living at Wildcat Creek MX, which is a motocross track up in Lafayette area. So I'm staying up there with him, and I stayed home that day from work, which I was going to Spike's KTM with him, which is where he works. And I stayed home that day because I was like, man, I'm riding today. Like, it's way too nice to not ride. So I stay there all day long. I ride all day. Have a great day on the bike, which, like I said, I'm at this point in my life, I'm so happy I stayed home that day because I got a full day riding in before my injury. But we rode all day. He gets home from work at around like 7 o'clock, and they have these KTM 990 adventure bikes. I'm like, let's go and ride. Let's just go around the block, man. I was like, it's super nice. Like, we should just go out and just do something. And DQ's like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty tired. Finally, I talk him into it. You know what I mean? And we get out there, and so we only did probably 3.5 miles. It wasn't like a big crazy ride, you know. We just kind of went around the block, and it was already dark. It's December. Sun sets early. Well, there's 2 covered bridges. We make it through the first one. We're probably half a mile from the house, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I go into this covered bridge. I don't know if I hit a downshift and my rear end kind of, caught a little bit too much engine braking, or whether I crossed up. Because on covered bridges, they have the driving boards that are a little bit elevated. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if I crossed up on one of those. It's hard to say, but I tell everybody it was the slowest crash of my life. I was going 15 mile an hour, just something silly. So I go into this bridge. And from there, I don't know exactly what happened. Like I said, I don't know if I crossed up on a board. I don't know if I had too much engine braking. Long story short, I slid out, and I'm assuming I had to have hit a pole, one of those poles, because I broke 6 ribs, I broke my shoulder, and then I also obviously I broke my back. But nothing sank into me until I'm laying there, and we have comms. We're talking to each other, and my comm quit working. Because I was gonna be like, hey, I fell, no big deal. Like I was not worried at all. Like not a single worry in my head. Adrenaline's rushing. Well, I go to sit up to check myself out, make sure I'm good, and I look down at my feet, and normally your feet are sitting like this. If anything, you could fall in a little bit. Well, my feet were laying flat, out, straight flat out. You know what I mean? Your muscles aren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I look down at my feet, and I'm like, oh man, I'm paralyzed. DQ's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're good. You're all right. I'm like, dude, I promise I'm paralyzed. Like, I know I am. And he's like, no, you're fine. You're fine. Because, he doesn't want to know it either. And the funniest, not funny, but the craziest part of this story is my dad hates street bikes. He's hated street bikes my whole life.
Yeah.
Well, earlier in the week, I had convinced him. I was like, hey, you care if I do this? He's like, no, it's all right. Just be safe. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even consider this a street bike. It's like a multi-purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just wanted to have
dual
fun.
sport. Yeah,
it's just a dual sport, and so I figured I'd include that part of the story just because my dad, since I've been a little kid, he's always hated street bikes, and of course, something like this happens on, we'll call it a street bike. But
yeah,
so yeah, that's kind of when I would say panic set in, but I wasn't panicked. It was really, really weird. I was extremely calm, just kind of chilling, no big deal. This lady drove, she was just driving the road, and she obviously seen all the stuff going on, and she stayed there with me, held my hand. It was an old lady, and she was so kind. Like, it honestly helped me so much through the whole process until I got into the ambulance. So I get into the ambulance, they transport me to Lafayette, the local hospital around there, and then I ended up getting life flighted to Riley, which is in Indianapolis. It's like the top children's hospital in really, I think, all of America. But from there, then I had my surgery and stuff like that. But I feel like I should add this too. So when I got into the ambulance, most people pass out whenever they break their back. I've came to find out. I never passed out. I was just there, living in the moment. And the ambulance EMT, he's like trying to put my IV in my arm, and he's like, you're not qualified to ride this motorcycle, right? And I'm like, wow, this guy's really got some nerve. I'm like, this is a pretty serious scenario. And he's put my IV in my arm, and he says that to me, and I'd say you're probably not qualified to put this IV in my arm if you've missed 4 times. We didn't talk anymore after that, but
yeah,
that was a serious conversation that I did have in the ambulance. But
man,
crazy experience.
Yeah, like were you? Like you said, you had adrenaline rushing and everything. Like, how long were you laying there on the bridge, and till you realize that we need some help, and how long till help got there?
So I would say the whole process before anybody was there was probably 15 or 20 minutes, but I immediately knew I was paralyzed from the moment I went to sit up and I looked down at my legs and they were laying flat. But it wasn't like I was freaking out. I was just there, sitting there, breathing, just hanging out, and I'm just telling DQ repeatedly, hey, like, I'm paralyzed. Call my dad, like, I'm paralyzed. Because I said don't call my dad. I didn't want him to call my dad. I was like, don't call my dad. He's like, I have to call your dad. Like, this is serious. I'm like, just don't call my dad. I don't want him to know about it. And I'm like, eventually I just come to my sense. I'm like, you know what? You have to call my dad. Call my dad.
Yeah, call him.
Let him know where I'm going. Let him know what's going on. But I was just more so worried about what everyone else was going to think than honestly myself. Like, I was not concerned. I knew that I had broke my back and I knew things were going to be different, but I wasn't scared for what was to be the outcome, which I'm so grateful for, because I know a lot of people get in that scenario and think their life's kind of over. Whereas my first thought is, okay, what can I do different? Or how could I do this different? You know what I mean? And I feel like that mentality and mindset right there has gotten me so far in my
And
position.
were you thinking this on like sitting on the bridge?
Yeah,
That's what
I'm
you were
sitting on the
thinking,
bridge.
sitting on the
Just,
bridge.
I'm in the bridge thinking my own thoughts, like just running everything through my head because if there's anything I've learned from racing and from my dad's business, you got to be able to come up with it on the fly. Like you've got to be ready for what's next, regardless of what happens. Obviously, nobody plans to break their back, but my first instinct is, okay, how can I make this something that I can do and be beneficial and like how can I still be able to do the things that I love? So I start, going to the tank and I start thinking of all these things and just crazy to think about. Obviously, by the time I got in the ambulance, I had already had medicine going in me, and I'm done thinking at that point. But
Yeah. How long were you in the hospital?
so I was in the hospital for 3 months, not because of my back. I mean, I guess it's because of my back. I really could have left in a week, but they really wanted to do physical therapy and stuff like that. And the hospitals were very empty because of COVID. Like my unit itself was very empty. It was the physical therapy unit because it was all during COVID. This is all in 2020, whenever things are just jacked up everywhere, and
Yeah.
so I'm in the hospital, and there's like hardly anybody in there. So I'm just kind of there hanging out with. I had like two really good physical therapists, and they had me out of bed. I think it was 3 days after my surgery, and I mean that was so grueling. Like I was out of bed, they wanted me wheeling around and everything, and I'm like, guys, I don't want to. Like I just want to take a break. You know what I mean? But I'm so thankful for it now because it gives you that attitude to just like no matter like I don't feel like there's a worse pain than having a surgery, a 12-hour surgery, and then going straight to doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like days later. So that's kind of like I'm glad that they made me do that because I went straight into doing stuff, and even when I was sore, I was still getting up every day and hitting therapy and therapy. That was another thing is the therapy program I was on was more grueling than any training I've ever done. Like
Yeah.
I was doing 2 and 3 sessions a day for 3 months straight, like weekend sessions even. They would come in on the weekends and work with me on a Saturday, and then I'd get a Sunday off, but still, I mean 5 and 6 day weeks of just straight therapy was crazy.
And so I'm sure you had the realization in your head of all the implications, that could come from what had just happened. What did the doctor tell you?
So they came in there and they, doctors come in there and have their serious talk or whatever. And they're like, hey, I just want to let you know your injury was pretty serious. Like, here's your x-ray. Here's what we've done. You have a 3% chance to walk again, which is basically what they told me. And I'm like, okay, 3% is better than no percent. That's literally what I said back to them. They're like, well, I'm glad you have a good attitude about it. And I'm like, yeah. And honestly, as bad as this sounds, my mom's always is striving for me to get up and walk again. Truthfully, I'm never, I don't look at it like, man, I really want to walk again. Because if it happens, it happens. If not, I'm not going to be chasing something that's not something that is a for sure. You know what I mean? It's not saying I'm not going to work towards it.
Right.
I don't ever be like, man, I really want to walk again, because then it takes away, I just feel like it's a bad mindset to have, especially with my situation.
Mm-hmm. And so, and during this whole time, what was the most difficult part for you?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I would say the hardest part, honestly, for me was being away from the races for those years. Just being away from it. Not necessarily not racing, not necessarily just things like that. Like just being away from the races. You know what I mean? My life almost became normal in a sense. I was home on the weekends. Just really weird. You know what I mean? Not going and doing something. It was almost too relaxed in a way.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I guess going and competing on Sunday is one thing, but the whole lead up and like you said before, the training and the process of, packing the camper or packing the truck, and,
Yep.
mom was working on this, dad was working on this, you had to get this stuff ready, and all that just like in an instant
Yep.
vanished
Just
for a
gone.
while.
And
Yeah.
I guess here the other big thing for me, like I mentioned earlier, I love working for my dad. Well, I was like, okay, like I'll go to work still every day and just do my thing here, and I'll figure out a way to be useful. Which, hindsight, right now, I found my job and I'm useful. But at the time, it would beat me up so bad that I couldn't go to these jobs. I mean, I could go. I would go to the jobs, but I would be there watching. I wouldn't be, I say, of any use. I was still useful because I know exactly how everything's supposed to go. I'm able to walk everybody through and put everybody where they need to be, which at the time I didn't realize how useful it was. Now today, I realize how big of a part I play in the program. But
Yeah, it's operations, man.
yeah, at the time it tore me up. So there was like a 2-3 year period where I wouldn't even try to go to work because it almost made me so mad that I couldn't go down there and be hands-on, lifting up block or driving this or driving that. It would drive me insane, so I just wouldn't even go. And that is probably the biggest battle that I faced, was just going to work and not being able to work, quote unquote.
Yeah, and what you mentioned before we go any further, how old were you when this happened?
So I was 15 whenever I got hurt. I was 16 when I left the hospital.
15 when you got hurt, 16 when you left the hospital, and so now you're 16, you're out, and you just said something that honestly scared me for you in that time, and I think you said it was like really hard for you to keep going to work.
Yeah, it was because I felt like I couldn't work.
Yeah, but that is like a razor thin edge, and we're going to get to this, and it's going to be my favorite part of it, but like that razor thin edge right there of giving up or pressing on.
Yep, 100%.
And can you imagine what your life would look like now had you fell off the other side of the razor?
Terrible. Like I couldn't imagine going into something like this with a bad attitude or a bad mindset. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm a positive person. It's just how I am. It was never I can't do this. It was how can I do this? And that's how I've lived this whole time. Is just how can I do this? You know what I mean? I shouldn't say, whenever I said like machines and stuff, I still get in all the machines. If they need me in an excavator, I can dig a footer. If they need me in a skid steer, I can backfill the wall. You know what I mean? I can do that stuff. But it was the part where I couldn't tie up the loose ends that everybody was missing. You know what I mean? Carrying block, whatever the case may be, that was what drove me nuts. But like you said, if I taken that edge and I fell off the other side to the, well, I just can't do it, it would not, I don't know that I'd be able to really live with myself.
Yeah, but how easy would that have been for literally anyone else?
Oh, it's the easy way out.
Yeah, I cannot imagine that. And, it's not coincidence the world you came from.
No,
and everything that you had to learn to get to where you were at in the sport. And everything you had to learn to get through a mud race or deal with a mechanical on track and trying to turn a DNF to maybe a 10th or something, like how much did what you learned there at the racetrack because it's not even really, I mean, a lot is the same in motocross or.
Well, here's the thing about motocross. If you do bad in the first moto, you get 30 minutes and then you can go right back out and fix your mistakes. GNCC, if you have a bad weekend, you got to sit and think about it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing my dad likes about woods racing, is it builds you as a person, whereas motocross gives you a freebie right after. No matter how bad you do that first moto, you get a freebie right after it in that second moto.
Yeah.
So it's like just straight, you know what I mean? It's almost a restart. And my dad's like, the real world doesn't give you restarts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's absolutely right. But just the way that that training wasn't for naught. You found a way, or like you were presented a situation in your life where I have to rely on where I was to keep moving forward. I have to take the things that I've learned in my 16 years of life
Yep.
and apply it to have any shot at success moving forward.
100%.
That's crazy, and a part of your story that I didn't recognize until now, until just like looking at it dead in the face.
It's crazy how much it shaped, like, all these kids that go to the races. It's crazy what their life will look like because of racing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kids' lives that will be shaped in a good way from racing, and there's a lot of kids' lives that might be impacted in a wrong way because, there's some kids that understand what it takes to be there, and they respect that, and they see that as a human being, and they put in the work themselves, and they continue to grind. And then there's some kids that don't realize how much it takes to be here. And those kids...
And they take it for granted.
Exactly, and they'll take it for granted, and then by the time they're 30 years old, they'll be like, okay, my dad did, like, they will come to a realization one day, and they will be very upset. That's all I'm not pinpointing a single person, I'm just saying I've seen it both directions, and there will be some kids that will be the most successful kid in their family, and there will be some kids that kind of just wasted an opportunity.
That's right.
One of those other, it's like the sharp point you were talking about. It's one of those.
Yeah. Other side of the coin, I guess. So we talked about, what happened, the immediate aftermath. This is the part that I'm excited about, the rally, the decision to move forward, and, the small victories, or, some big victories afterwards. Talk a little bit about that. You're out of the hospital now. What does home life look like? And then, like, what did you just dive into, immediately?
Yeah, so I should probably start with this. My mom, kept everybody updated on Facebook and stuff. Well, then I grew a pretty large following through that presence, and everybody, liked my story, but I think it was really because of my mindset and my attitude towards stuff. Like, I wasn't giving up, I was pushing forward, like you said. So the first few weeks at home, it was a lot of, like, just, like, my school did a big parade for me to drive through where all the kids came out, and just pretty much, like, said, we're here for you, basically, you know what I mean? And just stuff like that to where they made me feel welcome, which was definitely beneficial for me. It helped out and stuff like that. But to start off, like, my home life after the injury, we poured a little bit of extra concrete. That way I could make a ramp and stuff into the house. So we had a bunch of local businesses actually help out a ton with that. They put in a ramp at our house, and then another local business made a handicap accessible bathroom for us. And then I'll get into this a little bit more here in a second, but I ended up having a house built for me as well. But,
nice.
So to start off with, we did those updates to our house, and then there's a lot of people involved in the house part, but Chris and the Land Mills team was a huge contributor in having a fully handicap accessible house built for me. So I bought like a 3-acre parcel of land, and we ended up putting this new house on it that was fully handicap accessible for me. That there, like I said, there was another local company that donated a lot too, and then just there was a ton of people involved in it, but ended up getting a fully handicap accessible house built for me, which was tremendously helpful. Like, to this day, tremendously helpful. And then, yeah, I mean, pretty much once winter was up, I started just grinding physical therapy and, like, just getting places to where I wanted to be. Like, I was starting to get a little bit of some muscle movement. Not like I could move my full legs or anything, but I could twitch my feet back and forth and stuff like that. Which, in the grand scheme of things, it sounds awesome, but it really wasn't that useful. It was just cool. You know what I mean? And
a little bit of hope, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of hope. And then I got into something that was called water therapy. So you're in a pool, they put ankle weights on you, your legs move way easier in the water, your whole body does. So I would practice walking on this treadmill in the water. Well,
so wait, what you're telling me is that, like, without, I think water would take away resistance, maybe?
Yes.
Or
so
add much lighter resistance?
Yeah, exactly. Much less resistance. Like,
so in that environment, you were not paralyzed?
I was still paralyzed, but my small muscle movements were able to do a lot more damage, if that makes sense.
No, that does.
So
And that the hope would be to strengthen them,
Yes,
to
correct.
maybe perform out
I
of the
had
water.
really decent quad muscles. Like I could use my quads. I could fling my leg forward. I couldn't move
Yep.
my knee. I couldn't move my ankle. I couldn't move anything. I could just fling my knee forward or fling my whole leg forward. So, like I said, I'd be doing this water therapy 30, 45-minute sessions, and I'm just holding myself up the whole entire time with my arms. Just moving my legs as best as I can, and I have a therapist in there with me helping me move my legs, obviously, making sure I'm making full strides. But that was really the point where we were like, okay, I could maybe do leg braces and, start taking some steps or something like that. But so long story short, I do that, water therapy, and then, yeah, I mean, about 2 months later, I get some leg braces, and they lock your knees out, so they hold your legs straight, like fully straight.
Yep.
And I started off in like some bars, like that you hold on to both sides, and walked back and forth in there until I got comfortable and started doing a walker and stuff like that. And eventually, I was able to do it with a handheld walker, and I could go some pretty good distances. But I guess from there, it's probably an appropriate time to tell it. So I'm all the way to my senior year of high school now, like therapy-wise. I've been doing it all the time, every day. And my goal was to walk across the stage at graduation. I didn't care if I wheeled up there to the stage, but I wanted to walk across the stage at graduation. So I was very, very close to that point, like looking good. And then I started doing more therapy, and long story short, I got it down. So I walked across the stage at graduation, which was hard to do because my gown, you can't see your legs at all. So at therapy, I'd been walking and I could see my legs and see where they're going and stuff like that. So I had to almost learn on a fly. I'm like, oh man, this is like, I can't see my feet. So I was like, I'm still doing it. No matter what, I'm doing it. So I walked across stage. My therapist came to my graduation, held my gait belt, and like followed me through. And she's like, I'm not going on the stage with you, so if you fall, you're done. And I was like, all right. So I walk across the stage, and it was really cool. I got to shake the principal's hand, and I got to hold my little paper that says you made it and get a picture. And it was really neat. And to see the school and the kids that, I've grown up with kind of erupt around me, it was really surreal.
Yeah. I have a few questions before we move forward.
Yep.
The first, which, and I don't want to go too far backwards here, but I do have to ask this question. Afterwards, you described all this support, with the house and the ramps and the attention on Facebook and the support from GNCC. Did that ever go away?
I can't say it's gone away. It's definitely not as massive as it was at the time. But I mean, that's with anything. You know what I mean? They see that I'm doing well now. Nobody feels bad, which I'm grateful for, because I don't ever want anybody to feel bad for me, because I'm not that kind of person. I feel bad that somebody else feels bad for me.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I just, like, in my mind, I was comparing when my grandma passed. Mm-hmm. We had this, the funeral. People were bringing flowers and they're bringing food, and then like the next thing you know, it's all over, and then the realization sets in.
Yes, for sure.
And
there were periods of time where, obviously everybody has a bad day, but my bad days are truly limited. Like, I don't have a bad day often, and when I do, it's never poor, pitiful me. It's just how, like, I'll do something and then it aggravates me, you know what I mean? Because I know I should be able to do something better or just be better about it. And then I kind of come to my senses. I'm like, there's no big deal. Like, it's not a big deal. You shouldn't be worried about this kind of deal. Those are my bad days. It's never like poor, pitiful me, or I hate to say what if. What if is like the strongest, worst saying ever. Because there's no what ifs in life. Like, there is, but there's no you're never going to see that what if. So why even bring it to for a wish? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I respect that. Like you almost you have a baseline.
Yes.
And you don't let yourself go below that baseline because you gotta be real. You gotta
Yeah,
realize
100%.
like your challenges and okay, this is gonna sound really weird.
No.
I have the same baseline. I'm 8 years sober,
Yep.
and if I have a bad day, I can say, well, at least I'm not high,
Yep.
or at least I'm not drunk,
No,
and that's
for
my
sure.
baseline. And very rarely on days like today or like in my life right now, do I make it all the way down to that base? There's always, I can always catch it somewhere before that, but at least I have that to fall
Yes,
back on.
for sure. That is 100% for sure, and I feel like everybody should have a baseline. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
because I mean it's good for happy, healthy living.
that's right. I don't want to discount the graduation, so I want to get back to that.
Yeah.
Did you measure the stage beforehand and like practice the distance?
So my mom knew all the details, but I'm very go with the flow. Like everything I do is kind of winging it. Like I don't prepare for anything. So I did like 3 or 4 news things where they put me on TV and stuff, and they're like, "Well, did you look at the questions I sent you?" And I'm like, "Honestly,
Nope.
no. I'm sorry." They're like, "No big deal." I was like, "It should be fine." So they were always like, "Wow, that was pretty good," and I'm like, I just kind of speak what I think, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
another thing that you just touched on was like just being true with yourself. I'm a very real person. Sometimes it bites me in the butt because sometimes it comes off rude,
Yeah,
but I feel like if you lie to yourself, then it's so much harder to live and just like be content with your own brain. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like I always just shoot straight because I'm not hiding anything. You know what I mean? I feel
You
like
got
that's
nothing
the
to hide.
better way to be.
yeah. No, I'm with you.
I kind of lost track of your question. I'm sorry. Oh,
No,
it was about the
no,
stage.
yeah,
That
the
it?
stage.
Yeah, the stage. I didn't measure it or anything. I just kind of went with the flow, and it ended up working out. But I was able to walk pretty far at therapy, so I'm like, as long as the stage isn't the size of the gym, I should be good.
You got it in the bag. Yeah. How loud was the crowd when you
So
accepted?
it was literally incredible. Like they moved me in the order. I'm a G last name, so I was pretty early, really. But they separate my graduation into 2 sides. Well, I would be like right in the middle of that first side. Well, they put me at the end of the first side. And my graduation at my school is very very by the book. You're not allowed to throw your caps. Like there's like it's very
wow.
it's very like just normal. I don't know.
Traditional?
Traditional. That's a great way-
Conservative?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they don't really like a lot of clapping in between people. They save the applause for the end, things like that. Well, they knew that they weren't going to get that whenever I walked across. So they saved me for the end of the first half, and I walk up the stage, and the whole time I can't even hear anything. Like the crowd is so loud, like erupting. It's almost like being at a baseball game or something, and they score the home run. You know what I mean, to win the game. Like it was that kind of eruption from the crowd. And I get up there and I take my picture with the thing, and it took everything in me not to, shed a tear because, like that support, I'm not a super emotional person, but that right there, like just to see how many people stood behind me, how many people believed in me, and you know what I mean, just being there and just I couldn't look around because if I looked around, I'd be bawling my eyes out and I had to make sure I got back in my wheelchair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was amazing.
I can't relate to the thing out of that I can relate to. The day, on my wedding, I was a mess. The day of my wedding, and it was because of everyone there that was there to support me and my
Yep.
wife.
100%.
And nothing else. And I know what you feel there because they're there and
Well,
they're
yeah.
making that noise for you. They're behind you, and I think that's so important.
Oh, it is. It is. It's incredible. It's something, like you said, a lot of people get to experience it on a wedding day. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, a lot of people don't ever get the experience, but it is a crazy feeling. And my dad is like, he's not emotional at all. I don't know that I've ever seen my dad cry other than funerals, weddings, and graduations. No matter whose graduation we go to, he will shed a tear.
Those are 3 pretty good reasons to cry, though.
And I'm
I'm just saying.
I'm like, you know what? I kind of understand why. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a mountaintop for sure. So, okay, that was kind of like a highlight.
Yep.
That was 5 years ago, right?
So when I graduated, it was 2023. So about
2023.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay, gotcha. So, and that would put you. How old are you now? 22.
I'm 21. I just turned 21 in March.
Well, congratulations. Okay, so
Thanks.
21. Now you got your whole life ahead of you.
Yep.
And like you said, I don't want to say that people forget because they don't forget.
No.
But life moves on.
Yep.
And what does life look like for you now? What has changed?
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit in a way, but it comes to present time.
Yeah, go for it.
So, like 2023, weirdly enough, my brother comes back into racing. But with that being said, when he left racing, which was he was 7 or 8 years old, he might have been 9. He had won 7 national titles. He was a great racer, very good. Well, I broke my arm when he was like 9 years old, and I think it scared him. I really do.
Oh,
But what's weird about this whole thing is I think he got scared when I broke my arm. Well, then I break my back, and he's like, I'm going to go back to racing.
for you.
And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm full game for this. Like, I cannot wait to be back at the races, basically. We race locals for a year, and I, along the way, start coaching him. Like, I just start getting into coaching him, and it's kind of impressive how quick I'm making him better. He's going from 10th place at a local, and 3 weeks later, he's 5th. Okay. 6 weeks later, he's on the podium every race. 8 weeks later, he's winning. Not winning every race, but he's winning. So I'm like, okay, I kind of enjoy this. I took Logan, Van Adams, which he's a top 20A rider now at GNCC, Bryce Woodrum, which he's a 4-stroke A lights racer. He's great. I took those 3 riders. I texted Van and Bryce. I didn't really know them at the time. I had known of them, but I didn't know them like, hey, let's go riding. I texted them both. I said, hey, I want to do a little program with you 3. I just want to see how this turns out. I'm going to take you 3, and you're going to be my guinea pigs. So I'm going to take you guys riding. We're going to go to certain places. I'm going to, if you will, let me take control of your program and let me see what I can build you guys to.
Kind of coach them, right?
Yeah, coach them. Kind of take them and I was like, I just want to see what this is going to turn into. Well, eventually, Van starts winning all the locals. Van's winning on the amateur overall podium. Not winning, but on the amateur overall podium, which Van had never had an amateur overall podium, let alone a class podium up to that point. So I'm like, okay, this really might be working. So I then take Wiley Tucker and Wade Tucker, which are brothers around my area. Wiley races 4-stroke A lights. He just got his first podium in 4-stroke A lights this last weekend, which is freaking awesome. Wade's a little bit older, so he's like kind of getting out of the national racing. He likes to work, which, I mean, more power to him.
And for those of you that are listening and don't know, off-road racing in Indiana is no joke.
No, it is the real deal.
Yeah, it's like a mecca for off-road racing and is very, very, very ultra-competitive. So.
For sure. So I took those 5 kids, and I pretty much trained them for a year without offering any public training. Just solely because I was like, let me build you guys into something. Just let me take you guys free of cost. Like, I didn't charge them a dime. I just wanted to help them out. So, yeah. 2023, I got into training, I guess you will. It would have had to have been last year, springtime-ish last year. I started offering training to public, and I'm not looking to make a killing. You know what I mean? I'm just doing it because I love it. Like, I truly enjoy it.
Get you back in, and
it connects me with the sport in a way that is most similar to racing, and that is this year alone. I have been almost more happy watching these kids strive to compete and reach their goals than the feeling that I get from that is the closest thing I've ever got to winning a race. And it is so powerful, and I don't know that these kids know how much that they mean to me as a person. Like, it is insane how much I live my life through these people. Like, some of these guys, I call them and I ask them, hey, are you doing this? Hey, are you doing that? And it's like, to them, I'm sure they're probably like, I can't believe that it's 10:30 at night and he's thinking about me right now. But it's because I love making them better. I love seeing them succeed. I love watching them win. I love watching them meet their goals. And that's one of the biggest parts of my training is, hey, at the end of every session, I go, hey, guys, we got to get one goal in our belt. I don't care if it's top 10. I don't care if it's top 5. I don't care what your goal is, but you have got to reach it, and you've got to believe in yourself. I said, if you don't do those two things, you're not going to, you have got to do it. And I've really came forward to, growing these kids and making them better adults. I feel like in life, every kid has that one coach growing up that they remember the rest of their life. Well, I want to be that one coach. You know what I mean? Baseball has that one coach. Football has that one coach. And a lot of people don't think of it like this, like I do. But I've seriously there's been so many nights where I just kind of sit in my bed and I think about what I want people to know me from. It's not, I don't want them to know me from my injury. I don't want them to know me from my racing even. I want them to know me from a guy that gave back to a sport he loved and made these kids better people. And that is truly my goal.
That's so powerful, man, and especially coming from where you come from. But, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me because you're no slouch. You were no slouch on the bike. Obviously, you got the record to prove it. So it's not like you're coming to them from a place of zero experience.
No, 100%.
You're coming to them with a place of from a place with a lot of experience.
And that's just another thing to add to it is my whole life, I'm an analyzer. Everything I see, everything I do, I think it through to the point where I almost shouldn't. It's like I overthink, not in a bad way. I just think of every possible outcome. I think of how can I make this better? How can I make that better? Well, I do that with these kids. Like I want to make sure that the reason that I'm in it is not for money. It's not for people to follow me. It's simply because I want these kids to grow into better adults.
Yeah. But you're getting a lot out of that, man. And I think what you're bouncing around the term, but you're passionate about it.
Oh, I'm 100% passionate, and that is kind of so. I'm gonna backtrack again, and it's not on purpose, but whenever I decided, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can work for my dad because I didn't know if I could, and I found my way to do it. Well, I bought a triaxle dump truck because there's just an entrepreneur in me. That's just
Yep.
That's just the bare minimum. I got to find something that I can make money on. Well, I get this dump truck and it's not going bad. Like I never lost money on it. But I wasn't passionate about it. So it was really hard there in the later dates of it to keep doing that because I was like I'm just not passionate about it. So I ended up selling that off and then that's whenever I got into the training stuff, but that was like, my start into like doing different things, I guess.
Yeah. Do you still work for your dad?
Yeah, I'm in the shop right now. This is like my best, quietest area I can be.
Well, shout out to Dad for letting us shoot a podcast.
Yeah, he just walked in with lunch.
What do you say, buddy?
I'm doing.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So you've kind of carved out a new spot in the sport that you love. Mm-hmm. You're having, great success at it. What's next?
So, I guess I probably should have added this when I was talking about it, but I just bought property like 3 weeks ago for my training. So, I bought 35 acres, about 10 minutes from my house.
Wow. And
I'm really excited for that. Like, just to even own something is so exciting to me. Not really, like, obviously I'm excited to use it for riding, but just to have it. I've never had somewhere to go that was ours that I could go and ride, and I'm honestly most excited for Logan to be able to go down there and ride whenever he wants to ride.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I don't want to cut you off. Keep going.
So I guess what's next is make my property somewhere that, people can come, do what I was doing, make the most of their time, get the most success that they can out of it, and then, obviously build into a better human, but also do what they want to do on a dirt bike.
Yeah. That's a heck of a journey, man. That's a heck of a goal. What have you, I see videos all the time. But what have you found that is like your favorite pastime now? Or like maybe have you found an area where you yourself can compete these days? Or
Oh, like we touched on at the beginning, I have a go-kart, and I don't really do like structured races on it, but I do ride with like a group of old guys in DQ. Like that's our group. And one of these old men has a dirt track in his backyard.
old guys in DQ? I love
we'll
that.
go out there and just battle to the death of it. And that's a blast. But later on I got into like the micro sprint cars, which that was also a blast. I still have it. I just haven't been in it because I've had like 3 separate surgeries. So I had my first surgery, and then 2 years later I had another surgery. Well, that surgery failed like almost immediately. So I had to have a third surgery, which was about a year and a half ago, and that one's held up very well. But a lot has changed in those 3 surgeries. Like the second one really screwed me up pretty good, so I lost a lot of motion in my hips, and I can't really stand up as straight now that I've had this last surgery. But yeah, I used to get in the micro sprint car, and that's competition, but it's nothing like dirt bikes. Like it is a blast, don't get me wrong, but the adrenaline rush is not the same.
So now I guess you scratch that itch through coaching?
In a way, it's a lot of that, but I also adapted a dirt bike.
Oh, really?
And I've only rode it like 5 times probably, but it is a blast. Like that is the same adrenaline rush, if not more, through that. It's honestly really, really neat how fun it really was. And honestly, I wasn't expecting to be able to go fast on it. And I haven't rode it in over a year and a half because I had to let all my hardware and stuff heal up in my back, because
Sure.
if I mess it up this time, I'm really going to be in trouble. So I got to make sure I'm strong before I go and do something silly. But I was very impressed at how fast I was able to still go on the dirt bike.
Yeah. I bet I can't imagine that feeling. That was probably a pretty good feeling
is a
until your leg
blast.
back over.
And I guess my dad bought this adaptive mountain bike. It's a 3-wheeled bike, and it has the front end can twist like this. Mm-hmm. So, I could sit like this, and I'd still be sitting straight up and down. The bike would be like this, but I'd be sitting straight up and down.
Yeah.
And that is probably the funnest pastime for me. Because
Getting on the mountain bike?
it is the closest thing you can get to like a normal activity. Like I'm going mountain biking with normal people. It's the exact same. And there's not really anything holding me back on it, I'd say.
I never really thought about that. Like in an arena like that, it's kind of cool that we live in a world where you don't have to, ask or hope that the crowd is going to adapt around you. You have a piece of equipment or,
Yep.
new technology where it can adapt to them, and you can just go be a normal human being.
For
That's
sure.
cool.
And
yeah.
that's another thing that makes everything so fun that I do is like that core group I was talking about, Van, Logan, Bryce, Wade, Wiley, like they're great friends. Like anytime if there's a set of stairs and I got to get up it, they're going to help me ride up the set of stairs. You know what I mean? It's just a good group around me. I don't really go anywhere alone per se. I kind of have a little core group that I hang around, and it definitely helps.
I live by that, man. You got to have a good circle around you. And, that's what the show's all about,
Yeah.
is calling my cool friends, to letting them tell their cool stories and hearing their awesome triumphs. And it wouldn't be a show without, the people around me. That's what it's
100%.
all about. So we're kind of winding down. I still have a few questions left, but like, obviously, when you were, a young kid, you never looked into the future and saw this happening, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
So I'm not going to ask that question, but I am going to ask the question post injury. did you ever look ahead and imagine a life like you're living now?
I wouldn't say that I knew I was going to be training, and I didn't know that I was going to be going back to races because, like I said, at the time, my brother was playing every travel sport known to man. So it was like I didn't ever think that I was really going to reconnect with racing. Obviously, I still like to be around it, but I didn't know that I was ever going to get back to it and be there every weekend like I am now. But I knew eventually that it would work out to where I would work for my dad because the whole time that I raced dirt bikes, my dad always told me there's always got to be a backup plan. Like dirt bikes are, nothing is certain with a dirt bike. He's like, you got to have you got to be the very best racer to where you don't have to work after you get done.
Yeah.
So I always knew in the back of my head that I was going to have a job at some point in my life. I knew that. But I didn't know it would be this early in my life, and I didn't know it would happen like this. You know what I mean? But I would say I was at least prepared to have something to fall back on, I guess.
And now that obviously we're just talking right now in today, like where is your mind at, like looking forward now?
Just striving to continue to be the person I am right now. Like, and it doesn't take much effort for me. Like it's not like I'm putting on an act, you know what I mean? It's just live my same daily life I'm living right now, and along the way help people as I can, and then just continue to like build this brand, quote unquote, that I'm building with the training and stuff like that, and just turn that into something that's profitable enough to pay my bills for my property. I bought a tractor, just keep that stuff in line and continue to be able to pay that stuff. And I mean, as silly as that sounds, I know I sound super grown up right now, but just be a successful adult. Like, I just want to be able to do what I want, financially stable. Like, I don't want to just put myself in a bad spot.
Yeah. I think that's very, responsible answer to that question. I don't know if you realize, quite how powerful your story is, quite how inspirational you truly are. What mindset wise, how do you stay you all the time? How would you describe that?
Just the biggest thing that I feel like I do that other people don't do is every day I wake up, I'm just immediately going. Like, no matter what. This is a cliche saying, but I always say, make your tomorrow better than today. No matter what. Make tomorrow better than today. So I always just go into, like, the next day with, a positive mindset. Like, this week's been pretty tough for me. Like, I've missed work 2 days in a row in the morning just because I don't know why, but I couldn't wake up. Well, I woke up both days, I was pretty upset with myself because I do pride myself in coming into work and, doing my job. Like, that is something I enjoy doing. Well, I didn't beat myself up about it. I was pretty upset about missing 2 mornings in a row, but I was able to go over to our shop. I had 2 days worth of bike work to do. So I just went over to the shop, knocked out 2 days of bike work, and made myself content. You know what I mean? I was still able to train both of those days. I went and did bike work until I had to leave to go to training. And then I kind of just, go to bed that night and I say, okay, I'm going to reset and tomorrow's going to be a better day. Like a bad day for me is just being upset that I missed 3 hours of the day.
Yeah. It's a level of, it's a class of problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And your class of problems are probably much higher today than they were, in 2020.
100%. And it's just, honestly, the biggest thing that's changed day to day is I have to be more prepared than usual. Used to, there wasn't a preparation bone in my body. I go with the flow. I pretty much just hang out, whatever. Well, now, if I want to go somewhere for 3 days, I got to pack for 3 days. Like, there's levels to it now. But that is the biggest change, I would say, in my whole life, is just taking a step back and organizing myself a little bit instead of just go, go, go.
Yeah, resetting.
Yep.
I think we're gonna start to wind down, but you know, I think it's quite obvious what success looks like for a 15-year-old up and coming pro athlete.
For sure.
You know, it's the gold medals and the trophies and the champagne and being in the center of the box. What does the success look like for you now and moving forward? And how can you track it? How can you recognize it?
As stupid as this sounds, watching people achieve their goals from something through me is like the best way for me to know that I'm doing something successful and to also achieve my goals. Like, I achieve my goals through them. They don't know that. I would never tell them, hey, I'm going to achieve my goal through you. Because it's just like, obviously a lot of people say that like their parents lived through them. But I seriously, it's a way to track my success as a trainer through the results. And like I said, it sounds kind of silly, and some people almost think of it as a negative for, like, you know what I mean? Like, some people live through their kids, which is great in a sense, but some people almost take it too far.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it in that sense. I'm just saying, like, Trip Lewis, a kid that I train, he just won his national title in GTC. That made me so proud to see that happen, because I knew I played a part in that.
Yeah, you're invested.
So excited for him, but I'm also excited for myself to see that I was able to take him there. Maybe it was a small part of the program, but I was still a part of it. And that really makes me, like, I pride myself in that, if that makes sense. Like, just making a kid better. And whether it's a kid that gets 5th place, you know what I mean? I would pride myself if he got 5th, you know what I mean? It's not like I only text the guys that win. I text the guys that get 10th place. I text the guys that get 5th place and say, hey, that was a really solid ride. Great job.
Yeah, because you can recognize in other people like progress, maybe more so than absolute pinnacle of success.
Yeah, exactly.
Like for some kids, it may be like a 15th may be more impressive than a second for another kid.
Yep, exactly, and that makes you just as proud as a win. It truly does.
Because it's a journey,
Yep.
and it's a progress.
100%.
A work in progress, man. You got anything else you want to say? I mean, I'm kind of like speechless. I think it's been really good.
I feel like it's been a great conversation, and I really don't feel like I've left really anything out.
It doesn't. I can tell you what. It doesn't feel like it's been an hour. I'll tell you that right now.
No, not at all. I will say this, because I was thinking about this last night in my bed, and this is a weird thought, but I don't watch my TV that much. I sit in my bed and think about random stuff.
Sure.
I seen Austin Faulkner's post about him retiring.
Yep.
And all I could think about was him going on a podcast, and he can tell his life story in probably 10 hours. It would probably take him 10 hours. But he's lived probably 25 to 30 years of life, and you can condense your whole life down and do a 10-hour session. Or for me, I just condense 6 to 8 hours of my life down and do an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to think that all this life that we live can be condensed down into such a small window. And I know that's random, but I just thought of it last night, and I figured I'd share it because I think it's truly incredible how that can happen.
Yeah, but what I want you to think about here too, and I want you to take this with you, at least from my perspective of that statement, that hour and 15 minutes is so powerful.
Oh, 100%.
And each person has that power. To someone else out there, that like version of their story is like the most powerful thing in the world.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful part about the people who have the guts to tell it.
Yep, 100%.
To share that.
Yep.
And I think and I feel like almost a responsibility to share that.
Yeah.
And I haven't always, because I haven't always, had that confidence or had the will to do it. I've always wanted to kind of hide behind things, and but I think there's so much good that can come from being vulnerable.
100%.
And I think that's what you shared today.
Yeah.
Some very vulnerable moments.
I'm very similar to you. I like to stay to myself. You know, I'm not flashy. I don't look for attention. But like something like this, like I've always wanted to do something like this. You know what I mean? I feel like my story is powerful, and I feel like it can impact a lot of people in a positive way. And that's truly what I want to do. You know what I mean? That is my goal. But like you said, it's hard to almost come out of that shell because you and I both, we're not flashy people. That's why we get along. You know, we're very similar. But yeah, I agree. This is a great way, and I really enjoy it.
You hit the nail on the head because I'm not on here as cliche, if you will, as it might sound. I'm not on here for me. Like I'm here for good stories. I'm here to help people. And that's what it's all about, man. Examining 100%. Success, examining, people's lives and their world and putting it out there so that the world can benefit from it. And, I think that wraps it up just about as well as anything. So, hey, thank you very much, man. And I think there's definitely room for you to come back on the show someday if we think about anything that we might have missed. But yeah, great show.
Great show, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you again.
All right. So this has been episode 4 of One Call with Lucas Grounds. My name's Griff, and we'll see you next time.